Alrighty, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is I'll name this segment later, GTG spits that grease, etc., etc. You guys know how this all goes. Now, before we actually get into what our sequence of events is, I'm not sure if you guys have heard that new Lupe Fiasco SOS. Fire. Fire. I'll leave the link of it down in the description, and whoever basically watches the comment section, I'll see if they can try to like pin it as a comment or something. You guys can check it out for yourself. Fire, just fire track and whatnot. Reference heavy as Lupe usually is. It really caught my a lot of things caught my ear, to be honest with you, but one of the things is that we've been holding down the bass like Guile, whatnot, which, you know, I really love my Street Fighter references, video game references in general, but well played. That whole fucking track is just fire. Anyway, so I'll link it down there. If you guys have heard it already, let me know what you guys think. But if not, I will link it if you guys haven't heard it yet. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get to the situation at hand if the title has not given me away yet. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be speaking on, let's see here, present DSP is the victim of past DSP, but YouTube and his detractors are to blame. What am I talking about? So, there was a segment, at the time this comes out, it would have been a little while ago now, where DSP had said that YouTube had basically changed the algorithm up and they completely screwed him over. They screwed over his business. His detractors have taken over his content or stolen his content, so he can't make money off of it before so they make money off of it before he does, or at least they get exposure before he does. And you know, his 17 years, 18 years, something along those lines, all the time that he's put in has essentially gone to waste, and now he's completely and utterly dependent on crowdfunding because YouTube won't do their job and because the detractors keep fucking him over. Oh boy, oh boy. So I thought some Lupe Fiasco in the background will be appropriate. But let's get into our situation. The reality is, ladies and gentlemen, DSP is a fluke and whatnot. He's a product of his time. He was in the right place at the right time. He got a lot of notoriety for basically nothing, to be honest, and he cheated the system. And this has been proven, to be honest with you, when he was doing his retrospective events, where he would go back and he showed you the old layout of the YouTube channel, kind of like when it looked like a MySpace account or whatever it was. And when he used to upload those videos, and he would show you like, oh, they had these different stats for these different categories of where you ranked. So in comedy, in this and that, so on and so forth. What DSP admitted, and I'm sure Tevin will back me up because I'm sure he's spoken on it as well, or he'll at least back up the concept. He's not gonna back me up, but he'll back up the concept, is the fact that DSP used to basically put himself in every category. That's how he got exposure. He cheated the system early on as the system was being developed and forming, and that's how he was able to saturate, spread himself all over the place. I'll give you an example. So DSP, in the same segment, he's crying and complaining about how, oh, when you typed in Spider-Man, my Shattered Dimensions playthrough would come up, mainly his episode 1, and which has over 1 million plus views and whatever. And he said that used to be almost 2 million now that I think about it, if I'm going to be honest. He said that would be the first thing you would type in if you ever saw Spider-Man. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Is that just the first thing that you would type in because it's directly associated with your channel and DSP does look up his old videos? Or is that really the first thing that came up when Spider-Man came up? But semantics. In any case, he said that you used to be able to do that, and he would get like 40,000 plus views a month just off that video. Now, you would have to dig deep for this. But back in 2018, 2019, he used to cry and complain about how his old videos weren't getting views. And he used to cry and complain about, oh, well, during the holidays, my old catalog used to bring in millions upon millions of views, especially during the holidays. And that money, he really relied on that money, despite the fact that we were making all that money on Twitch. Semantics. In any case, DSP kind of rehashed it here. And it goes back to that that thing I like to say about how past DSP fucked over present DSP, and present DSP is doing damn near everything in his power to fuck up future DSP. And it's just a vicious cycle, right? And then future DSP will blame past DSP and so on and so forth. And it's just a vicious cycle, which is actually, now I think about it, rather iconic, let alone ironic, because DSP Dark Phil Burnell, Dark Chapetto, is by far his greatest detractor. You know what I mean? By far. He beats out Tevin, he beats out Snort Burnell, he beats out Memology 101, Mighty D, whoever your favorite detractor is. He beats all of them. He's by far his worst enemy. And time has proven it. Time continues to prove it, especially in our current day and age, for sure. So, DSPs has put out this, has continued to basically pad his little hooves on his drums and say that YouTube fucked him over, that's why he's not relevant, that's why no one will talk to him, and the detractors are screwing him over, and that's why he can't get any traction. But let's dig further, right? Let's not think about just the videos and the live streams or whatever, but let's actually look at it from a social standpoint. Let's really think about and let's really talk about why people won't affiliate or associate with DSP. It's not because it's not completely, I should say, because how other people portray him on YouTube or on Detractor Twitter or on Instagram or TikTok or wherever, social media in general. It's all him. Like, you sat there and alienated yourself from all these different people over the years, and it's come back to haunt you. Like, for example, in another video that I'm probably due right after this, DSP was almost insulted that people wouldn't want to have his life. And I'll leave it at that, because we all know why no one should really want DSP's life. And I have brought up the subject over multiple years, as well as others, on despite what you think DSP makes a year, despite DSP 6 figures a year, it's not worth being Dark Phil Burnell, DSP Dark Chapetto. It's not worth it. It's not at all. Not at all. And for my crutch, the crutch of my argument, and then we'll move back to what we're actually talking about, is he's not happy with what he has. He's not happy with what he's done. He's not happy with how he's going to be remembered. So why the fuck would anybody else want that? And I know most of you are going to be like, oh, well, you know, being able to play video games every day, getting money, sitting down, doing it. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, DSP does not make his money playing video games. He doesn't make money off of his daily therapy session, podcast, fucking bullshit. He makes his money begging. Like, and I will continue to beat that drum because it needs to be beat. Like, he makes his money begging and whatnot. That's really that's all his crowdfunding, quote unquote, crowdfunding is. It's for him anyway. It's begging. That's all it is. He's not producing anything. He's not giving you anything for these dense money. It's just begging. That's all it is. So even if he's producing 6 figures off of that, what does that mean? There are dudes on fucking Twitter who make like $15,000 a month just retweeting shit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, granted, you're talking about hundreds of tweets and whatnot a day. And yeah, you probably could or couldn't do that in a few hours or whatever. But fucking A, bruh. That's, I don't know. I guess it depends. Like, I guess it's passive income, certainly, but you want to do that full time? Same thing with DSP. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to do that full time. What DSP does on a daily basis, you could literally do that in half the time. Certainly. If you're going to school, if you're going to work, or both, you could theoretically do, not even theoretically, you could, because people do it. You could do what DSP does, or you could make what DSP makes, I should say, and whatnot, and not do it all day or not stretch it out. Thing is DSP just doesn't have anything else. He doesn't have a life. He's chronically online. He's tapped in, he's patched in, he's plugged in such a way that he can't get himself out. And that's why the house is all fucked up. That's why his marriage is all fucked up. That's why his wife / mother is all fucked up. That's why the cat's sick. That's why he treats his parents the way he does. That's why he treats people the way he does. That's the reality of DSP's life. But we'll speak on that later. Let's go ahead and fucking spin the block and come back to where we were at. So DSP is so past DSP is still reverberating or sending out waves, if you will, that affect current DSP. And the reason why that is for one, DSP won't own up to the shit that he's done. Or if he does, he is willing to do the smallest amount possible, He's willing to admit to the smallest amount possible just to get it up and out the way. That's not good enough. That's not taking accountability and or responsibility and whatnot. Now, in reality, none of us is really asking or expecting him to do it anyway. It's actually best that he don't, because it continues to prove the narrative, right? Because DSP says that we take him out of context. We misrepresent him. He believes he's misunderstood. No, you're not misunderstood. You're mentally ill, right? You're probably mentally disabled. And you spent a long time and a lot of time hiding those things or going on the offensive so people don't take that close of a look at you until they did. Until people really did start to take a really, really close look at you. Like, for example, he ain't taking shots at the FGC yet again because he's hoping to get on button check yet again, and he's hoping to secure that interview with Ernesto yet again. Phil, you're not fooling nobody. You're not fooling nobody. I'm one of the main people who is dead set at watching your supposed, air quotes, FGC legacy be torn down, because it's not the way you presented it. And it's my understanding, according to Detractor Twitter, that after the last Dent C Scrolls, big ups to Alt and Steve the Dead, that someone from Event Hubs reached out to them and said they have more on your ass and whatnot. And I kind of have a guess of what they already have anyway, because I've seen some of your old posts from Event Hubs, as well as from Capcom United. And I'm waiting for somebody from Capcom United to come up and around and whatnot, because some of your history over there is kind of gone. I wouldn't say it's lost media yet, but it's not as complete as SRK. We'll see what this Event Hubs guy has, or Event Hubs person has, and then we'll see if Capcom United ends up coming out. I'm not even sure if that stuff all of that has been archived from back in those days, but we'll see. So trust me, I'm someone heavily invested in watching DSP's FGC legacy or career or whatever the fuck be torn down, because it never really existed anyway. It was the delusions of a mentally ill person who couldn't accept that he's not as good as he thinks he is. He's not as knowledgeable as he thinks he is. He's not as skilled or as talented as he thinks he is. And that's really all YouTube actually kind of proves in a hindsight. You weren't as beloved, in air quotes. You weren't as beloved. You weren't as respected. You weren't as revered. You were none of those things. You were just one of the loudest assholes at the time. And you were given the fruits of that as such. If anybody who knows your history on Machinima, they overpaid you. They overpaid you from Jump Street. You admitted that. You admitted that they were overpaying you. So there's that. Sorry about that. I had to step away for a few more minutes than I thought I was going to. Anyway, he wasn't respected. He wasn't revered. He wasn't as popular as he thought he was. He didn't have the influence he thought he was. He wasn't as entertaining as he thought he was, to be honest with you. If you look at what the base of his fan base is, or viewer base, or whatever you want to call it, that proves it. Like, when all those people who either found better content, grew up out of him, end up people who became detractors, people who gravitated towards, detractor content in general, if they didn't decide to make it themselves. He was reduced down to the lowest common denominator. He's been distilled, if you will, to the lowest, to the last of his base. That's really who DSP attracts. That's really what his tribe is. You know what I'm saying? And DSP hates it. And DSP's has been hating it for a while. Because when you look at the people that are around DSP, the weirdos, the pedophiles, the people who are mentally and physically disabled, stuff like that, right? The people who make bad financial decisions, the people who are socially inept, this, that, and that. This is a representation of him in one way or another, right? And yet again, if you go back to the June the King documentary, you go back to the people who were his fans or are his fans, and they said, "Oh, I think DSP has this. DSP shows the signs of that. This is one of the reasons why they connected with him," so on and so forth. It makes sense. It makes sense, because truth be told, and I've been saying this, if DSP could attract more detractors to him and get them to play ball with him, maybe even see things from his point of view, he would. He would, deep down. But the thing is, though, is DSP is addicted to the hate. He needs to have enemies. He needs to have ops. He needs to have opposition. He can't live without it. And that's why with Justin, with Max, excuse me, with just anybody, with any of the old guard in the FGC, I don't know. Okay, I've been speculating that it isn't so much him wanting to get cool with them and eat off their plate and get some clout, but I think he wants to try to get himself in a position where he can embarrass them, where he thinks he can embarrass them. Let's say that he thinks he can humiliate them. He thinks he can call them out. Excuse me. He can call them out on some old shit and have people look at them in such a way and whatnot, as well as fishing for his apologies and all that bullshit. So think of the 666 podcast, the Snakening, King Snake, Snake Eater. Think of that, but think of an FGC version of that. I think that's what he's shooting for. That's the long term of it. Trust me, his animosity, his hatred, and his insecurities as it pertains to Justin and Max is blatant. It's blatant as hell. It's blatant as hell with some of these young guys who are just coming up in the FGC making names for themselves. If you actually go back, you can find this too. It's definitely in SnortBucks videos. It's deep in those SnortBucks videos, right? And as well as the memology ones. Mighty D may actually have a compilation of this too. But when DSP talks about all those people who are making a name for themselves in Street Fighter 4 and in Street Fighter 5, and how he was like, these guys weren't around in the beginning. I don't know any of these guys, so why are they making names for themselves? Or how are they making names for themselves? Why are they being recognized? Stuff like that. His animosity and resentment for stuff like that, for the fact that his time hasn't been passed up, or those of his era, I should say, haven't been passed up, just him. And the reason why is because he wasn't as pivotal as he thought. You know what I mean? He was just another nameless asshole. And there's a lot of villains, air quotes, there's a lot of villains in the FGC. DSP he's a drop in the bucket. He's just another piece of, another stick on the fire, really. Not even a log. He's just another stick on the fire. You know what I'm saying? Light kindling, if you will. And if you look at DSP as it pertains to other YouTubers that he has had problems with, or whatever, instead of having a civil conversation, if he's a mature adult with a business degree, instead of having a mature conversation with these people, he chose to bash them. He said that these guys weren't real gamers. And because they're not real gamers, they're liars. And because they're liars, you shouldn't watch their content. Jesus Christ, he tried to do that with Max. He tried to say, oh, well, I understand that Max is just doing business and I can't fault him for that because he has a family and he has to provide for his family. But he has #ad, so that makes him a liar. Which means you should never believe him on anything that he says about any game because #ad, dude. What the fuck? But then in the next breath, in the next snort, you're gonna sit there and say, oh, well, I wish I could get more ads. I wish I could get more opportunities and sponsorships. Why? I thought you called Max a sellout for that. I thought you called Justin a sellout for that shit. Matter of fact, when Justin signed that deal, well, Justin, Youve, a bunch of heads actually in the FGC, signed this deal with White Claw, non-alcoholic beverage. Why didn't you call Justin a sellout for that shit when you were sucking his dick when he beat your ass 10 matches straight? Why didn't you fucking say nothing about that there? #ad, dude. He's taking sponsorship money, dude. So why wasn't he a sellout then? Oh, because you thought you were gonna eat a little bit off of Justin, even while you were getting your ass beat down? You thought you were gonna get a little piece of that? And you didn't get anything. Justin moved on. For you, that was probably the most exposure that was the most exposure you've ever had. You thought this was gonna be ECC back in the day, East Coast Championships, by the way, and you thought you were gonna beat Justin on stage like you did that one time for Super Turbo. Instead, Justin mollywopped the fuck out of you. And that's the reason why you want to keep wanting to try to stick your penne into fucking CVS2. Because you're hoping to go ahead and run into a couple of big names from back in the day, but you're hoping to beat up on these little guys. You're beat up on the noobs, beat up on the scrubs. You're hoping to go ahead and knock their heads off, get yourself up in ranking as high as you can, right? So then, oh well, hey, look at Bucktooth, look at Look at Bucktooth, look at Justin, look at Ricky, look at who else is out there still playing. Well, there's a lot of people playing CVS2 still, to be honest. Bass, who else is out there? Those are just some of the guys I can think of. There's a shitload of killers running around right now that are playing CVS2. Look at them. I'm up there with them. Look at my ranking points and look at the wins that I'm getting. I'm up there with them. But the reality is that's not true. What you're seeing with CVS2 right now and is no different than what you saw with Street Fighter 6. If nothing else, it's just a carbon copy. Pick up a character, get them to master rank, think you're all hot shit, and then once he gets to master rank, he stops because, well, he don't want to play no more. Because now that's where the real killers are. Because everything from when you begin up to master rank is basically That was the proving grounds. That's the training grounds and shit. Now, once you get past 1500, now you start getting into Deadpools. That's the reason why they put those extra ranks there. You don't want no parts of that. He wants no parts of that. That's the reason why he's hesitant to play Saget when he ends up dropping. But we'll save that for later. DSP has made every possible mistake socially as well as content-wise to fuck himself over. And the crazy part about it is if you go back and look, a lot of that could have been avoided. Now, let's be honest here for just a second. As it pertains to 2015, the false copyright claims and so on and so forth. If he had let Machinima do their damn job and handle that for him, he was already in a decline before those things came in. He would have still declined after the fact. His death just would have been slower. That's it. The death would have been slower. It'd have been a slow, painful, agonizing death, which is kind of what he's going through now. But it'd been a little bit, he wouldn't be bleeding nearly as much. It'd be like a death by 1,000 cuts, and then occasionally an asshole like me throw some more salt on his ass because that's what I do. Stuff like that. You know what I'm saying, essentially. But instead, when the strikes came through, he panicked because Machinima didn't get to him right away. He'd already put his ticket in for them to evaluate the situation, but he panicked, right? He didn't trust the process, let's say that. He didn't trust the process. And he went ahead and deleted all those videos and he fucked himself. And he's been fucked ever since. The irony of that, though, is he never seems to blame Machinima. Well, he does. He says that Machinima told him to do it, but realistically, nobody believes that because that sounds retarded. Because it is retarded. It's just not something Machinima would do. Machinima has pulled his ass out of the fire the years before that and the years afterwards. Why would they want you to delete all those videos then? That makes no sense. He wanted a quick fix. He wanted a magic pill to go ahead and make it all go away. And instead, he helped engineer his own demise, to be honest. It doesn't have anything to do with detractors. You don't have to take every free piece of whatever that comes your way. You don't have to do that. He did because it made him feel good. It made him feel important. It made him feel valued. It made him feel respected. And that's why he did it. He didn't even really appreciate it. He just took it. Matter of fact, DSP has admitted multiple times that on his old Hotmail account, the one they still use, but you know what I mean, that people send him fan art all the time, and a lot of that shit he don't use. A lot of it probably just gets deleted because it hits the spam. It is what it is, which makes me wonder why he's so mad at the guy who made the Filamania font when he knows that guy deserves credit for that because that guy had been running around for like a decade. He's been running around using that font for like a better part of a decade. But then again, if neither one of them own the license to the font, then it doesn't matter. So if it's like a commercial-free font, then it doesn't matter either which way. The guy, DSP should give that guy respect and some credit for it. But if that font is under license, then neither one of them really have a leg to stand on either which way. But that's something completely different. And that's just one of the many examples and problems that DSP has had on YouTube, past DSP in particular, that has just cascaded and continued to roll downhill, which has led him to be where he's at now. He'll never get up and under this. This is just the way it is from here on out. It isn't like back in anything before 2020, let's say. So pre-2020. There is no one video that hits the algorithm crazy and then everything just changes. It don't. Jesus Christ, he just admitted that he was in an 8-month op with Kino Casino, and look at everything he got out of it. Well, what did you get out of it, Phil? You ain't sold your soul for whatever little you had, and your ass, and your wife's ass, now that I think about it, to Kino Casino to have anything they wanted to do with that. So you can make, what, 50 grand? Nothing changed. The internet still looks at you the exact same way. You still can't get anybody to talk to you. No one even, most people are just losing interest in you overall. What did you really get out of it? Except for show people, like prove to people really that you have a price, that you can be bought. That's really all it is. You're a whore. You're a whore. You're a prostitute. You can be purchased. You can be toyed and played with, and then you can be tossed away. And the crazy thing is, even with PPP taking, or Triple P as I like to call him, still, even with him taking a cut on taking a small cut or even a loss on smart guys, he still made more money in the long run. He still is. You're not making any money off Kino Casino anymore. Money's gone. Those guys are still prospering. Not only that, but they actually hoard you out in such a way to where other people can make content off of you. And if they chose to make money or just grow their channels or whatever, it is what it is. They truly gave back, if you will, in a way that you never could. You couldn't help yourself. You were at their whims. The whole snakening bullshit just makes you look like even more of a fucking sociopathic asshole. That's what it is. People who think you're crazy, people who think you're mentally ill, the snakening proves that. But that's no different than what happened with the Stuttering Craig interview. That's no different than the situation when Medicare offered you an interview all those years ago. Well, a couple years ago. And you said no, and he used the N-word, this, that, and the third. Then when he was damn near sick, it sounded like, or it seemed like, he was at his lowest point where, he may not have too much time left. Then you wanted to go ahead and pick at his carcass before his body even got cold and said, hey, you need to do this interview with me before you die, basically. That's basically what he told Medicare on Twitter. You need to do this interview with me before you croak. It's funny how you always wait until people are at their most vulnerable to actually take advantage of them. But ironically enough, when you were running around here asking for interviews, this, that, and the third, and some of these people, not the people you wanted, but when other people were wanting to do an interview with you, you said it wasn't the right time. You said that the people still don't like you, the internet still hates you, or they still disregard you. You want to wait until see how things settle out. So you don't want to be used at your weakest point, but you're okay with using other people or throwing other people that you supposedly love and care about under the bus to prop your ass up. YouTube didn't fuck you over. DSP did your detractors, trolls, haters, and critics didn't fuck you over. You did all of that on your own. And the thing is, you can't stop yourself. That's the thing. You mentally are not capable enough to stop yourself. You're socially enabled or disabled, let's say that. You're socially disabled, so you can't do that either. And you need the hate. It's the only thing that gets you out of bed every morning. It's the only thing that gets you out of bed every morning. That's the reason why you let Duty's name come up out your mouth. Because you're hoping that someone will do the dirty work for you. Because you won't go at him yourself. And if you can't make YouTube do it, then someone else has to do it. That's all it is. Because you went and sat there and tried to do that shit with Tevin. Tried to do it with other detractors. Guys who were tried and true and shit. And you never really were able to get rid of them. And you know that. You know that YouTube doesn't benefit you. Not anymore. Without an MCN, Darkside Phil is useless. But an MCN won't pick him up. They still do exist, by the way. They just won't pick him up. You know what I'm saying? He's too much of a liability. Because most MCNs now, few and far between as they are, if you do get in, they want to get you into partnerships. They want to make sure you're getting endorsements and stuff like that. Now, granted, you can do all that on your own, but some of that is baked into some of these MCN deals. DSP is no good for any of those things. Like, name a particular sponsorship that you see all the time, like Factor, if you will, right? Or like G Fuel or Game Subs or Gamer Subs or something like that. Those people won't touch them. They won't touch them at all. And those guys will sponsor. Factor will sponsor damn near anybody. Now that I think about it, it's Factor and it's another one. Come to find out, they're actually owned by the same company allegedly. I heard they're both meals. They're both like those convenient meal things, right? But they're owned by literally the same company. I was reading that somewhere. I can't think of what the other one's called. Is it? Hey, what's it called now? Is it not Market Fresh? Oh, shit. And not Blue Apron. It's like Blue Apron, but it's not Blue Apron. It's something fresh. Supposedly them and Factor are pretty much the same company, allegedly. Is it Simply Fresh or I can't think of that. It doesn't matter. Point is, don't want to touch them. Neither one of them will do business with him. Which may explain why he's been trying to, air quotes, clean up some of the videos as of late, because he's hoping that he can fish one of those things in. But yet again, that's why he kind of, despite the fact that there's no point in him doing a lawsuit, he kind of needs a lawsuit theoretically, or at least the threat of it, to so this way in the public mind, or in the public eye, I should say, in the court of public opinion, he needs to come across as the victim. And then, you know what I'm saying, and then he can start his redemption story and whatever. But in any case, as it pertains to what the initial point was, YouTube didn't do DSP dirty, he did himself dirty. If anything, DSP got far more out of YouTube and out of Machinima than he should have. And that's already been proven. He himself has admitted it. Machinima overpaid him damn near from day one. And by the time they ended up correcting the boat, is Adpocalypse basically came up. And instead of him diversifying and going over to Twitch, which is what he was planning on doing anyway, he was already planning on going over there because he already found out that there were other ways of him there were other monetization options over there. Instead of him just going over there and doing that, DSP's lazy and stupid, and he can't actually multitask. And he wanted to make sure that Machinima would take care of him for as long as he could. Instead, he gave them even more incentive to get rid of him, and then went to Twitch, and then acted like that was all part of his grand scam, or grand scheme, or his great plan, if you will, right? And then he wrote it out. And if anything does happen to him on YouTube, he'll do the exact same thing on Kick until he can figure out when he can go back to Twitch. End of story. So yet again, and to finalize all this, YouTube didn't screw him over, and the Detractors didn't screw him over. He's a product of his own. I want to tell you his own upbringing, but is it his own IRL upbringing or his own internet upbringing? But he's a victim to himself. He's a slave to himself. He did it all on his own, and he marched to that drum willingly. He still does. And as the viewership is getting smaller and smaller, because it is, and he's forced to bleed, literally, he's castrating, honestly, financially. He's financially castrating as many dents as he can. Where is he going to be at come the end of the year, the end of 2025? What's his plan for 2026? Because clearly the lawsuit thing isn't going to work, because YouTube's not moving the way he wants them to move, right? And why would they? Like, YouTube's taking their cut for those who are monetized, and for those who aren't monetized, they're gonna, if YouTube is starting to put claims on videos just because, not put claims, YouTube is starting to monetize videos just because, whether you have copyrighted stuff on there or not. So YouTube's gonna get their money regardless. So what's he really gonna do? What grounds does he really have? And yet again, if he really thought he could get YouTube to move on his behalf, that would have happened years ago. Same thing with Detractors. If he really thought he was going to get Detractors out of pocket, that would have happened years ago. Reality is he was a fluke. He always was. He's a poser. He always was. DSP will do whatever he can to make $1. The only thing I honestly believe that DSP cares about is the FGC. But he doesn't care so much about the current FGC, because no one knows him and no one cares about him, or he's just a laughingstock. He's hoping to grasp onto, I guess, the legacy or the OG FGC, which is why, like I said, he's nut hugging CVS 2, and hoping that he can build a name off of that later on. But he's too old and he's too slow. Actually, it's not even the fact that he's too old. He's just too slow. His reactions and reflexes aren't there, which is the only thing he ever had in fighting games anyway. He was never a deep thinker. That's pretty clear. He's not a strategist, right? He's an opportunist. He's someone who basically tries to capitalize off your mistakes. And if you end up capitalizing off of his, then either the game is against him or you're cheating yourself. End of story. DSP treated YouTube like that. When he was riding high, everybody else was making trash content, and that's why people loved him and loved his content. When that little fucking kiddie pool turned to an Olympic-sized pool and then turned into a fucking ocean, then he blamed YouTube and blamed them for cheating him, for screwing him over, for not giving him opportunities, for not allowing him to eat. DSP is just a victim of himself, as he should be. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening, and I very much appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys for the next one of these, whenever that may be. Probably soon. Hopefully sooner than later, because I want to go over that DSP taking shots at the FGC, because I got a lot to say about that shit. But in any case, like I said, I'll catch you guys for the next one. Thank you guys very much for your time. This is, I'll name this segment later, GTG Spits That Grease. And take care of yourselves, my people. Later.